And here's the second item of importance, which I know a few of you know, but many of you don't. And if I may begin this by quoting something from Alice in Wonderland, which is, "The time has come, the walrus said, to speak of many things, of sailing ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings." I have no idea what that means, but I like it. But the time has also come to talk about inevitabilities, things that must happen. And this is an anniversary date for me, beginning of October. And I almost can't remember being anyplace else, but I've been here for 5 years. I've completed my 5th anniversary here. The privilege and the deep pleasure of getting to work here has been utterly amazing to me. And now it's someone else's turn. The terms of my service will be complete in 11 months, and I will be retiring at that time. For some, that might not be happy news. And for others, it might be a relief, and I get it. There are 3 people out there thinking, thank God. I thought he'd never shut up. It's okay. But in the last analysis, your spiritual growth is not about anybody who is the minister here or who they might be. It's about you and your ongoing willingness to be in practice and to be in your community for the purpose of healing and learning and growing. And as often as ministers say over long periods of time that the church is not the building, the church is not the building, the church is not the building, it's the people. Like, we get that now. We get that, for sure. Why am I retiring? Now, I really want to be clear about this, so please give me your full attention. This is a personal feeling that I have. It's not a law, it's not a custom, it's not a habit, it's not a best practice. This is simply what I feel through my experience of being somebody who's been in, I'm 67 now, and I've been active in church for 50 years. For 50 years of that time. I believe, and I promised myself when I was ordained, that very often ministers stay too long. It winds up being about them and the people who like them and the people who don't like them. There is much wisdom I have learned to appreciate in the tradition that the Methodists have, for example, where they're rotated every 7 years. And in Catholic churches, I know that they do that too. As a young boy, not the founding pastor, but the supporting priests that would come in would roll out every 3 to 7 years. We don't have a dictate like that in Unity. But as I say, I have come to appreciate that there is wisdom in that. When I was doing some research just the other day, there have been 20 ministers here in this church over 105 years. There are only 4 people who have served more than 6 years. So for some, that are longtime congregants. Our previous two ministers were both here about 15 years, which is an anomaly. The second longest serving minister was here for 9 years, and then one for 12, and that was in the 30s and 40s. So even at a 6-year term of service, I'm more than the average, more than the average. A reason that I've come to really understand now is that when some people leave their jobs and they say that they want to spend more time with their family, I've always, and this is like, I probably thought this a month ago, thought, oh yeah, right. You want to spend more time with your family, like what? And I get that now. Because, I haven't had Thanksgiving with kin in over 20 years. And it's time to be back in some kind of what we would call normal experience of life. Thank you for allowing me to not be here last week. I was with my mom in Florida. If I'm 67, she's a certain age. And if she has a need, I want to be available for that. And this is simple stuff. I am not tired. I am not weary. I am not bored. I am not out of things to say, because the way life unfolds according to Spirit in this world is the most fascinating thing to observe and share. But again, also, I will be 68 in the spring. And there are additional things that I would like to be involved with that aren't necessarily based in church work. And so it is time for that. There is no story here. If you're addicted to the notion of having to have a story about somebody's trying to get me fired or there's no story here. I'm just telling you, my contract is complete. And I am the most grateful guy in the world for having had the privilege and the joy of being with you. And I take this step as a choice from a place of happiness and fulfillment. That is why I am retiring. Why am I retiring now? There's certain things that I'd like to say about that. You're going to have questions about this, please write them down. I'm retiring now because this church is as in good a shape as it has ever been. After 5 years of service, because of your generosity, that is not parenthetical, that is primary. Because of your generosity, donations have increased every year for 5 years. Every year for 5 years, we have been under budget with expenses. There is no deferred maintenance on this property. There are a few items that could be attended to, but they are not considered deferred maintenance. Everything that has needed to be fixed, repaired, and replaced has been over the last 5 years. We have a warm and productive relationship with Acton Academy, who is our beloved tenant, and they have a 2-year lease with us, so that there is some good that, quote unquote, is guaranteed. Whatever a guarantee is worth in times of quarantine, I do not know. However, continuing on, This is also the 20th century. The 21st century. Excuse me, I'm a man of my time. It's the 21st century. And up until, well, let me put it this way. Worship has not changed in the last 5,000 years. The only thing that has changed in the last 100 years is the addition of electricity. That is the only thing that's different. If you don't believe me, read the Psalms where it says, "Let us go to the house of the Lord and blast the trumpets and shake the tambourines." And when I go there, the rabbi's going to tell me what I'm supposed to know and is going to ask for money. Okay, that's church. That hasn't changed in 5,000 years. It might be time. I need a beverage, excuse me. It might be time for a different expression. One that I can't imagine. And one that maybe a younger person can imagine. Because, next point, because of social trends, those people that think about such things, mostly the Pew Forum on Religion in America, which is a go-to source for facts and data, shared 2 years ago that by the year 2030, 30% of all churches in America will be gone. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of churches in America. But when you hear a figure like that, 30% of all churches will be gone in 10 years. That's a very daunting fact. Not a fact yet, projection. And I've spoken to the board about that regularly over time. However, now from same sources, because of quarantine, pandemic, 30% of churches in America will probably be closed in the next 18 months. So we have gone to 2030 and moved that up to 2021. There's going to be a significant fall off. This church is too important, and the role that it plays in Middle Tennessee, it must be here, and it must stay strong, because we are what is called a unique value offering in our geography. And there are many ways we are of service to our Middle Tennessee region in ways that, frankly, a lot of other churches in other parts of the country are not. This is a singularly important ministry and will be, my guess, is at least for 40 years. To be ahead of the curve, it will take energy, it will take vision, it will take willingness, it will take commitment of time. Whatever we will be in the future, and let's say the future is 18 months from now, is being created right now. And this means of communicating, this platform is one of them. Like I say, this will not go away. This will be foundational to the way we communicate on Sundays and the way we have classes. For somebody to be with this ministry as it incorporates all the changes that we have incorporated now, as well as learning to be more flexible, more efficient, more of service and greater value will take a time that I don't have. We need somebody who, at best, will be here, for 7 years, while I'm not going to say the new normal. There's no normal anymore. While the decisions are going to be made about how we church now, and that becomes the new offering, because it has to be newer than it was previously. We have this opportunity, this platform, we have the school that I feel we're in loving and relationship with, that these people are actually teaching children the same things that I talk about on Sunday. My God. This might be a critical, important part for the greater ongoing of ministry itself. Why am I giving long notice? I believe that this is specific to the pandemic. Traditionally, you would never tell people you were going anywhere until it was like 90 days. But what is being created now has a fragility to it. We don't know what church will be like. Even in 6 months, we're not 100% sure, and we're not sure who's coming back. And again, it is my personal belief, because there's no written record about the pandemic of 1919 that I could find about church. But I think it's critically important right now that there be an orderly, in-place succession. What might generally happen is you might have somebody who would leave, and you would have guest speakers for a year. While I know how devoted you are to this ministry, that's an unacceptable level of risk that I don't personally want to expose Unity of Nashville to at a fragile time like this. Whoever it is, the aspiration, the hope is that they bring energy and truly a vision as leadership energy towards a vision of what is next for community work, and to give them the opportunity to segue directly into this without having a gap in continuity seems risky to me. So that is why I am giving long notice for this. And also the fact is it very often takes a year to get somebody situated. The process is long. In conclusion, then, I will simply thank you for this opportunity to be creative, to make challenges on my own mind and consciousness, to be of service, to heal in me what needs to be healed. It's been beautiful. And it's been fun. To say that I will miss you doesn't even begin to address the depth of feelings that I have at this time, because I also have a long history with this church. I started here in 2003 as the associate minister. And it was my first work where I was assured that this was good work for me. And I was away for 13 or 14 years, and now I'm back for 5, going on 6. But the way I'm holding this in my heart really is like, this is senior year in college. Yay. It's like, I got a whole year. This is not over. There's nothing that's over. I got stuff to do, a lot here, to continue exploring and moving through how we are going to continue to do this, and when and how the next phase is, when we are healthy enough to be here together, and how we will continue to do that. But like a senior in college, it's like, okay, this is inevitable. Like, who didn't see this coming? And what has all of this prepared me to do next? Next for me personally, next for the church corporately, and next for you individually. How will whoever is next inspire you? It could be in ways that you would have never dreamt possible. So I am here to hold the lively expectation of ongoing good, and to continue to do what I can do to be of service to this particular amazing Unity in Nashville. There are 2 other people that are going to speak briefly to you. I know that this is long. This is major. And Wyatt Wallace, who's your board president, and Stephanie Helmy are going to speak to you now. And again, keep writing down any questions that you may have. If you don't have any, that's fine. And if you do have some, if something occurs to you after the fact, you can always email me, office@unitynashville.org. The address is always at the bottom of your e-hymnal, the email address. So I am going to now invite Wyatt Wallace to assume the position and to speak to you.
Reverend John, thank you so much. On behalf of a grateful church community, and a board, we appreciate your service to this ministry. And while we're sad to see you go, we're very excited about what your journey looks like, and we know that it will be filled with grace and love. And on a personal note, having worked with you now for, I guess, almost 5 years, I couldn't imagine being a part of a church that blesses animals and creates Easter bonnets, and we dance around the church in Easter bonnets. And the opportunity to meet Gandhi's grandson, not once, but twice. I know those are small things, but they mean a lot to so many of us. So thank you. Thank you. With that said, we have started a search committee, and I know that there's some time here that's going to take pass here during the search, but it's some big shoes to fill, and so we're going to work on that all together. And I'm proud to announce, as chair of the committee, Stephanie Helmy. With some more details, Stephanie?
Morning. I'm Stephanie Helmy, and I am a member of the board as well as the chair of the search committee for the new minister. I agreed to serve on the board to fill in a position, an empty position, because I wanted to work with Reverend John, because he had told us all along that he wasn't going to stay forever, and that he had other things that he was hoping to do in his life while he was young and healthy and still felt like doing it. And so I wanted to be able to spend that time with him. So I'm glad I snuck in at the end of the race here to spend the time with him. I wanted to say that there are practices and procedures in place for dealing with the transition. So be comfortable and at peace about it. We'll be working with the Unity Worldwide Ministry. We have our bylaws and we have practices and procedures. So it will be orderly and thoughtful and prayerful. I want to say a word of thank you to our beloved Pat White, who led the last search committee and did such a fabulous job finding ministers for us to consider and finding John for us. She's made it so much easier. We have a clear path to work through here, and that gives me a lot of comfort going through the process. The other members of the committee, the search committee, are Reverend John is on the committee, Wendy Bear, Janine Lanier, Kent McGarry, and Jill Russell. All of these folks have been with the church long enough to have been through this before. And so you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of diversity. It's a great committee, and they've already started working really hard. The last thing that I want to say is to ask you to keep us all in prayer. Keep the board and the minister and the search committee and everyone involved in this transition in prayer. We will be praying. We will be holding the high watch before and as necessary during the entire process. And we ask that you support us in that way. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Observations? Anybody? Whatever became of the process of reviewing all possible use of the campus and options on the table. That is still an alive process which will carry forward. The task force made its recommendations to the board. I think it was February of this year. It was February, and then we have pandemic and we have not had any in-person meetings. There are a lot of possible scenarios. None of them are immediate. Anything needs to be considered very deliberately. And of course, with pandemic interjecting into all of our endeavors, all of our experiences, all of our relationships, all of our plans, well, we just don't quite know. But the primary asset of the church is this land and this building. It is being used well. As I mentioned, we do have a tenant, quote unquote. That's not the legal name for when a church partners with another party, but we do have a school here. It is a revenue stream for us. They do awesome work, which is completely compatible with us. So our facilities are being used 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday by the school, and us on Sunday. I personally find that to be in right relationship, that there is something going on here. And then what the future of all of that is unknown. But I would imagine that when there is new senior minister dealing with the board, and who knows who that might be at that moment, then that will be revved up. But right now, we are so fortunate and blessed, financially stable, and drama-free, that this is almost a golden moment for this church. So that examination and what the church will need in terms of facilities as it casts a new vision for itself, that is in the future. But for the moment, all is well and very stable. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, if the process reveals a viable candidate within the next 11 months, is a co-ministry situation possible? Is that an accurate paraphrase? Okay. And I don't know. There are two possibilities. One possibility is that the search committee really doesn't feel that there's somebody out there at this moment who's got the goods. Another possibility is when this is posted, and Stephanie, we're thinking of posting this announcement in November, early November. And Unity is very entrepreneurial. It's not like church, like other church. Usually if there's a church, the bishop says, you go there now, and you move there now. This is very entrepreneurial in that a church will advertise on the Unity website that's available only to ministers that there is an opening, and if you are intrigued by that, you follow up and go through an interview process. So if we, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we announce in early November, there are going to be a couple of people that are going to jump on it right away. There are going to be a couple of people that need to think about it for a while. We're also entering into the holidays, even though we are not in the building. There's still holiday energy, and there's a lot of things to do, and there are a lot of mailings to go out. Who knows? We'll start looking at resumes
As soon as they come in.
when they come in, but as an organization, we'll look at them January, February. It's going to be a while. I'm not going to fib to you, though. I've never lied to you, and I'm not going to do it now. If the board and the search committee think, you know what, boy, that person, they are interesting, and they need to be here now, like, I don't think a professional is going to say, yeah, I'd be happy to wait 6 months. So I'm keeping my knees flexed on this. Church can't, it would be imprudent for the church to carry 2 salaries. That we don't have. For a little while, yeah, I'm hoping that there will be an overlap, a little bit.
Ideally, there will be a little overlap.
Stephanie says ideally there will be some overlap. And I also want to say this about Mrs. Helmy. She has been of service to this ministry on many occasions, has been here for a long time, raised her children here, knows the principles and works them, and has been of service during, tough times. She's really been here to, done heavy work here. And this church really matters to her. That's why I'm thrilled. That's Stephanie is head of the search committee. But I have to stay flexible. On my very first Sunday, I remember saying, if any of you have ever lived in New York and have ridden the subway, You always have to keep your knees flexed because you're going to be going over big chunks and bounces, and you need to be flexed. That's the way to go through life. Otherwise, you're going to be going all the time. So I think for all of us, is we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, my bags aren't packed. I'm not in any hurry. And I'm not going to another church. But we'll see. I'm committed to being here till the end of my term, and if there's, I'm committed to being here to the end of the term. But we'll see what happens, and you will be informed regularly. But the serious work isn't going to really happen till February. There isn't going to be much to talk about until February. That's my guess. Does that sound reasonable, Stephanie?
I think that's likely.
Okay. Yeah. Now, is there another question? Yeah, somebody says that, what do I do if I want to be more involved in committees? I'd like to contribute and have my voice heard. Because we are not here, committee work very often happens when there's activity in the building or something coming forward. And because of pandemic, very limited activity right now. When we resume and what function that takes, there will be opportunity. I can guarantee you that. I mean, I know that we'll have at least one seat to fill on the board when we have the annual meeting in May. And it will be a very exciting time to be part of the creation of the future of this church. That would be a very exciting time. Also, whoever that was, I will take a look and make a note of it. And if you have something specific, let's talk. That's it. One parting thought. According to the way we administer our Unity churches, which is the same as any nonprofit organization, not the same as other churches. It's up to the board to hire someone who has any reasonable interpretation of the mission and vision of this church. My interpretation, by my own admission, I might say is wacky, but I'm spot on in talking about principle. Whoever comes next might be completely different. 100% different in terms of their presentation. But they will also be totally devoted to giving you every week their interpretation of the mission and vision and principles. So that is one way where our churches are completely different than almost all other churches, because we don't have dogma, we don't have liturgy, we don't have hierarchy. For any organization to succeed, there is one thing that is important, and that is the truth. And that truth is a torch. It must not be dropped. But for any organization to be vital and succeed, that torch must be passed to a vibrant personality. And again, that is how we are different than other churches where the Bible might be the only thing, and I will tell you what to think about the Bible. We have a truth teaching, and it is the board's responsibility to not ever drop that torch of truth principle and make sure that it is safely held by another personality. That's the human weakness part of all this. So my interpretation of what to do with that torch was certainly different than Reverend Cherie's or Reverend Jimmy before her, and it's going to be different. The next person's going to be very, very different. And praise God, because ultimately all of us are only here to remind you is to you keep in harmony with the 12 steps. I'm just here to tell you to work your program, because you will get results if you work it. And that's what all of us are here to do. So do I need to say anything else? Do you want to add anything?
I don't think so.
Stephanie, Wyatt, do you want to add anything? Thank you all for your service. Thank you for your attention. And we'll see you next Sunday. God bless you, friend. Oh, yes, one more. Will the next minister, Stephanie, do you have
Yes, according to the bylaws.
According to the bylaws, the next senior minister will also be CEO. That is in our bylaws. Good question. Thank you. Okay, fair warning. Going once, going twice. So long. Thank you for your attention. You are loved.